Hello, and welcome to our armchair safari to the Galapagos, Earth's great wildlife extravaganza. This blue-footed booby is so happy that you've all joined us. He's dancing with joy. I'm also very, very grateful that you could all come on board, and I'm excited to share the Galapagos Islands and its wildlife with you. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. The chat window is for any oohs and ahs that you might want to share with anybody. Make sure that you've got it set to all panelists and attendees. And if you have any questions, scroll your mouse over the bottom of the screen. There's a Q&A box and you can enter your questions into that. So let me introduce myself. As you can hear from my accent, I am from South Africa, and I moved to Vancouver in the mid-90s. Shortly after, I founded Travel Booker Adventures, and I haven't looked back since. I am so grateful that I can live in Canada and specifically in BC. As a luxury travel specialist, my mission is to create sustainable journeys that will delight you and take you to some of the world's most remote and beautiful wildlife areas. I believe that the Galapagos is one of those very special places. Many moons ago, I apprenticed in my uncle's travel agency and have carried on the family business. Over the last 40 years, I've traveled all over the world, and I've helped my clients create unique bucket list journeys. At the same time, I've also taken many industry courses, including the one for Ecuador, where my daughter and I traveled not so long ago. Over the past decade, I've also been privileged to attend many international travel conferences where I've met with forward-thinking industry leaders who all have the same in common: a strong commitment to conservation and sustainable travel. One of the best parts of my day is when clients return from their trips and they tell me about their experiences. Like, for instance, Simon and Betty, who had the dolphins swimming next to their boat and they felt like they were in the movies, or like Jen, who had an amazing trip with her husband. Susan and John not only had a fabulous trip to the Galapagos, but also very much enjoyed the planning of it. And then Heather said she can't wait until she gets back there to swim with the penguins and the sea turtles. As a token of my appreciation for you joining us today, I'll be giving you a traveler's toolkit at the end of this webinar. It is filled with interesting and valuable information to plan your next trip. Even though international travel is on hold for now, it doesn't mean that we can't dream about future travel. Perhaps you'd like to put into the chat window where your next trip will be once we get the green light. I'd love to hear your ideas. I know that my next trip was going to be to Costa Rica, so I'm hoping that that will still be possible. Can you all hear me and see me? Arctic. Haha, ooh, Costa Rica sounds great. Hi, Deborah. Yes, the Arctic is one of those things, and actually we are hoping to plan a trip, a photographic trip to see the caribou migration in the Arctic. Wouldn't that be nice? Yes, and the Northern Lights as well. Thanks, I'm glad you can hear and see me. So this small ship, Armchair Safari, is here to offer you some ideas of how you can travel sustainably, to inspire your wanderlust, and to give you some insights of how we can travel sustainably in the future. Who better to talk to you about this than Lisa Bain? Lisa has traveled the world and has been to 7 continents and worked on 4. She has been with Lindblad Explorer for the last 8 years, and before that she was working with an Australian expedition company. I'm sorry that I'm cutting out. My internet should be good. Let me just see if there's something that I can do about that. Can you hear me better now? Or am I still cutting out? Oh, good. Okay, perfect. So Lisa has mostly okay. That's wonderful. Lisa has a passion for small, sustainable expedition ships. And so I'm going to hand it over to Lisa now so that she can speak. Lisa, I am going to add you to, there we go. I'm going to make you to a panelist. And I hope that you can, and I've unmuted you. So I hope that you can come on now. There's your picture. Fantastic. Hi, Lisa. Welcome.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you everyone for coming along. I'm going to show my screen.
Lisa, I can't hear you. I don't know about the rest. Could you turn up your volume, please?
Yes. Okay, that's as high as it will go. Can you hear me now?
Oh, you can hear fine? Okay.
Okay, good. I've got a big booming Australian voice, so usually folks can hear me. So if you can give me approval, Christine, to share my screen, that would be great. It's telling me I need your approval.
Sorry, Lisa, I can't hear you, but everybody else can. So I'm just going to trust that you're going to fly on this with your own, and when you're done, I'll take over again.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to chat with you. I'm going to tell you.
Okay. That would make sense. There you are. Right.
Excellent. Okay, let me share my screen and we can get this party started. Okay, it's telling I'm disabled participant screen sharing. You're going to have to give me approval to share that screen. I love Zooms, aren't they fun? Okay, hang on, I'll send you a quick chat.
You just, can you share, Lisa, or do you need me for something?
Yes.
You need share screening approval. Of course you do. There you go.
Awesome. Yay. Okay, let's get this party started.
Thanks, Kelty.
Okay, so you should be able to see the Galapagos and a couple of wonderful things. Good, we're on our way. So I am going to get this party started and tell you a little bit about Lindblad and what we do. But first, I want to do a little bit of a history lesson. So let's chat a little bit about the Galapagos. These islands are located about 559 miles off the coast of Ecuador. Now, they hug the equator. They're sitting right there on the equator. The islands are volcanic in nature, and they have been forming and erupting and evolving for millions of years. Now, according to history, the archaeological evidence does tell us that they were discovered in pre-colonial times, but the Bishop of Panama, Thomas de Berlanga, was really the first known person to step foot on the islands, and that was way back in 1535. And that was because he was blown off course while sailing to Peru. Now, it wasn't until 1570 that the islands appeared on a map. And it took about another 2 centuries for the first permanent residents to find their way to the Galapagos. And that was actually a gentleman by the name of Patrick Watkins, who was marooned on Floriana Island in 1807. And he decided he was going to stay for several years. He raised vegetables and even sold those to the crews of whaling ships that were stopping on the islands. Now, the 3 centuries that followed the arrival of Thomas de Boulogne saw pirates, buccaneers, and whalers make a mark on the history of the islands. The islands were located really close to the continent, so it was really, really easy to raid Spanish ships transporting valuables, but just far enough away to ensure a safe escape if you were a pirate or a buccaneer. And whalers flocked to the islands in the 19th century after whale fat was discovered to be a really strong source of fuel. Actually, Herman Melville, the author of Moby Dick, visited, I think it was in the 1800s, as a whaler. And this particular area provided him inspiration for his world-renowned book, Moby Dick. Now, the 19th century also brought the Galapagos probably what is known as their most famous visitor, and that, of course, was Charles Darwin. He arrived in September of 1835, and he was, of course, aboard the HMS Beagle as it sailed around South America. Now, he really didn't have a lot of time to explore, not as much as he really wanted, but he was able to take numerous geological and biological specimens, and that is what he would later base his theory of evolution by natural selection upon. And I love this quote from Charles Darwin: "Seeing every height crowned with its crater and the boundaries of most of the lava streams still distinct, we are led to believe that within a period geologically recent, the unbroken ocean was here spread out. Hence, both as space and time, we seem to be brought somewhat near to that great fact, that mystery of mysteries, the first appearance of new beginnings on this earth." If you ever get the chance to read his book, that would be wonderful. That's just a little taste of the wildlife. But today, the Galapagos is actually home to thriving communities, and they largely depend on tourism and fishing, but there's a real focus on caring for these unique islands, of course. Now, the first wildlife sanctuary was declared, I think it was back in 1934, and the Galapagos National Park was formed about 25 years later after that. And the Charles Darwin Research Centre opened its doors in 1964. Actually, Lars Erik Lindblad, the founder of Special Expeditions Lindblad Expeditions, he paid the wages of the first 2 park rangers to ensure the establishment of the national park. And Lindblad Expeditions has been involved in this remarkable region ever since. So that's over 50 years. Now, the Galapagos has 2 distinct seasons, the dry season and the warm season. Dry season is June to December. Now, that's when we get those trade winds that bring the colder Humboldt current north to the islands. That means the water is cooler. The islands have a layer of high, thin atmospheric mist. Now, the highlands do remain lush and green, but at sea level, there's very little rain at this time. It's known for its blue skies and occasional midday showers. Now, the warmer and wetter season is December to May. Now, that's more tropical with daily showers, warmer water for swimming and snorkeling, but we do swim and snorkel all year round. Now, water temperatures vary from dry season. It's about 65 to 75 Fahrenheit, and in warm season, it's about 70 to 80. And in the warmer months, air temps can reach up to the high 80s, while during the dry, they're more around the 70s. It's not a huge change between seasonality. Now, the islands are extraordinary because of the unique experience they offer while visiting. Because Galapagos was so isolated for so long, wildlife never developed a fear of humans. It's very different to places like the Amazon, where it's nearly impossible to see large animals such as jaguar. Whereas in Galapagos, you pretty much need to watch your step everywhere you're going. That proximity is what makes the Galapagos such a brilliant wildlife experience, such an up-close experience. You've got the chance to come close to both marine and land iguanas. Now, both of these guys come from a common ancestor native to Central America. The marine iguana on Galapagos is the only iguana actually in the world to feed exclusively underwater. And it's got a lot of physical adaptations for survival in that really harsh environment. It's got a laterally compressed tail, which allows for that movement underwater, really long claws for gripping rocks in the wave washed tidal areas where it clings on. And its jaw and tooth structure has adapted to cropping seaweed off the rock. And when you're snorkeling, it's amazing to just hang out and watch them feeding on that seaweed. There's so much to learn about these remarkable creatures. There's actually, I think it's 6 very similar subspecies of marine iguanas, each from different islands in the Galapagos. The adults are usually more of a black color most of the year. However, when the males are breeding, they do change color during that mating season. And there's different subspecies that have different colorations, from green and brick red to bright green and bright red, which is what you see here. And they've been nicknamed Christmas iguanas. Now, bird life on Galapagos is plentiful, and if you're a birder, it is one of the most remarkable places. One of the most breathtaking, I think, is the frigate bird. Now, what you're seeing there is his gular pouch. It's not like a pelican's, which, pelicans use it to hold food and store food. Instead, this inflation of the pouch is a real show off to the ladies. This is saying, hey, look at me, aren't I a good-looking frigate bird? Of course, some of the islands are most known for their boobies, or their blue-footed, red-footed, or Nazca boobies. Actually, the Nazca, which is on the far right, is the largest of the 3, and it's fairly easily to distinguish them thanks to, each of them has very distinctive coloration. The red-footed booby is the smallest on the islands. Now, they're capable, and this is a really great thing to know for trivia night, so they can cover up to 93 miles while flying over the ocean. And they have such amazing sight and diving ability that they can catch virtually any fish and dive up to 130 feet underwater. Now, they stand out because of their brilliant red feet. The blue-footed booby, they're well known for their really bright blue feet, those turquoise feet. And a lot of that is due to the diet that they have that makes them that distinctive hue. Now, the bluer, the more turquoise the feet, the more attractive the male will be to the females. And they do this really cool dance where they're pushing their feet up into the air to show them off. The Nazca booby has really white plumage. He's got these black tip feathers, a really bright orange beak. And he has a really fantastic little black face mask. It looks a bit like a bank robber. Now, boobies usually lay 2 eggs a couple of days apart. And one of the hatchlings usually kicks the other one out of the nest in order to avoid competing for food. So you're actually seeing the strongest survive through watching nesting practices of the boobies on the islands. Now, roughly 17% of the marine life found in the Galapagos are endemic to the region. There's rare whales and hammerhead sharks, seals. Galapagos sea lions are really social. You can spot them sunbathing on the beach or gliding through the surf. They're very eager to swim alongside you. They're pretty cool welcoming party in or out of the water. Now, sea lions have a longer nose and their eyes are set further back in their heads, while Galapagos fur seals have a little shorter snout and their eyes are a little closer to their nose. Their ear flaps on a fur seal are a little bit bigger and they stick out further from their head, and their flippers tend to be proportionately longer than sea lions. However, if you're seeing them quickly in the water, I dare you to try and figure out which one is which when it's a quick pass by. Now, the Galapagos green sea turtle is similar to the common green sea turtle that inhabits most of the Pacific Ocean. However, the Galapagos turtle has been considered a different species because it lives in nests only in the archipelago. Now, you'll also have the chance and the opportunity to see Galapagos penguins and a wide array of fish. It's only because of those cold, deep currents that feed these volcanic islands that we have the opportunity to see penguins on the equator. Actually, the ancestor of the Galapagos penguin is the Humboldt penguin, which lives on the coast of Peru and northern Chile. And it's probably likely that small flocks were occasionally washed offshore, and molecular evidence indicates about 4 million years ago, there was probably a small population of Humboldt penguins that successfully arrived on the islands and continue to live there and are now known as the Galapagos penguin. All of that, plus the amazing color of things like the Sally Lightfoot crabs, which I think was one of the most photographed animal on the Galapagos Islands. And of course, the 14 different species of Darwin finches. There's 13 of the species resident in the Galapagos Islands. They are totally fearless. They're really noisy little birds. They're about sparrow in size. You can get so close to them. They're absolutely no concern for you. There's another lovely little bird there called a yellow warbler, which I've had sit on the end of a camera lens. Now, to identify the types of species of the Darwin finch and which species they belong to, You just have to look at the size and shape of their beaks that kind of were adapted to the different sources of food on the island. So it's fun just to snap photos and look at those different beaks on the different birds. Of course, the animal most guests come to see is the giant tortoise. All species of Galapagos tortoises evolved from a common ancestor that arrived from have undergone huge variation in size and shape, but all 15 species can be classed into two main shell types. So you've got domed and saddleback. Dome shell tortoises don't have that really strong upward angle to the front of their shell, while the saddleback tortoises have an upward curve to the front of their shell, allowing them to stretch their heads up really high to get at plant life. So they tend to live more on the arid islands where food is less abundant. They want to reach up and grab food out of the bushes. Now, tortoises are seen all year long. They are most active at midday in the cool season and usually early morning or late afternoon in the hot season. We will always see them in the highlands of Santa Cruz at the Darwin Center, and they can also be seen on Santiago, San Cristobal, Pinzon, and Española Islands. Now, this is a region of great diversity, both above and below the waves. It is one of the most remarkable places. And so how did Lindblad expeditions come to arrive on the Galapagos? Well, back in 1967, I think it was around July, Lars Erik Lindblad actually led the very first international tourist expedition to the Galapagos. And that really has paved the way for generations of guests to discover and understand the magic of these amazing islands. And so he was so enamored and so excited to want to share these islands and protect them that, as I said, he did pay those wages of the first two park rangers to ensure that the national park was established. Of course, that very first expedition to the Galapagos with Lindblad travel was a pretty special experience for all involved, and really did, as I said, begin that love affair with these remarkable islands. Now, a lot has changed since those very first days with Lars Erik Lindblad. Sven Lindblad, who Lars's son, has been at the helm of the company now for 40 years, has created some amazing alliances and partnership. And the one most people know of us is our alliance with the National Geographic Society, which was forged way back in 2004. And that allows our guests unparalleled opportunities to travel with the finest teams in the industry and real access to experts from a diverse range of fields, ornithologists, botanists, historians. And that's what makes up our expeditionary teams. These amazing men and women who are passionate about these regions. They want to share their knowledge, from underwater specialists to ornithologists to botanists, specialists in specific regions of the Galapagos. And so joining them, it's about being able to ask questions at any time, being able to learn and really appreciate what you are seeing while you're visiting these remarkable islands. Now, Lindblad Expeditions is a totally carbon neutral company. That means we offset all of our carbon, and that's great, but we continually work extremely hard to lessen our carbon footprint so that we have to compensate for less and less carbon. We're also a single-use plastic-free company, and we're working extremely hard with our supply chain to help them become plastic-free, single-use plastic-free as well. Now, we've had long-standing conservation relationships on the Galapagos, with the Charles Darwin Foundation, the Galapagos National Park Directorate, Island Conservation, the Scalicia Foundation. We support the Thomas de Belanga School, all of these things, and smaller, more individual programs with our local communities. Our Artisan Fund, which is a really fun part of what we do, this helps to alleviate the environmental burden while supporting economically artisans in the Galapagos communities, turning bulky waste products such as paper and glass into really beautiful items like glassware and paper beads. So we've worked really hard with local artisans to work on that, and all of their products are available on our ships. And our many, many years in the region have helped us to introduce a range of really cool tools for how to explore. And I think that's really important because these have been built up over the year, and that includes things from adding kayaking and ensuring you've got very stable kayaks and paddleboards for beginners to use, to having all the snorkel gear on board. All of this is included in your expeditionary fare. being able to help from all ages, from the young through to the old with the snorkel gear. It's provided to you it's provided to you at the beginning of the expedition, and it's yours to keep throughout your exploration, which means that each morning you pop up and grab that. And I can tell you in the Galapagos, you're spending probably a good 30 to 40% of your time during the day in the water, in that marine environment. Now, our cool tools also include electronic charts, so you can track our progress. You have bow cameras, so you can see what's happening in that undersea world. You have video microscopes, you see here on the right, so you can look at the strength of the plankton in the water surrounding our ships. You have a videographer on board whose sole job is to video that particular departure. So at the end, we have this amazing National Geographic quality video that our guests can take with them. And of course, you know, one of the most important things for expedition, the workhorse of expedition, is our fleet of Zodiacs. This is how you get ashore on all of these remote islands, makes it extremely easy to move about and provide access. And a lot of this, you'll hear people talk about wet landings. Wet landings means that you're coming ashore, you're not coming to a dock in most instances in the Galapagos. Our team is there to assist you. You scoot yourself around, put your feet down, and walk up onto the beach to join your group to go off on your hike or your walk or your photography. And it just makes life so much easier to get into these remoter places. We do offer diving in the Galapagos. I mean, the marine life here is so amazingly abundant, and there's some great drift diving. It's on specific departures on our larger ship, the National Geographic Endeavour 2. But I know Christine can help you if you're a diver. This is a great place to dive. You will need your PADI certification, and we will need to see that before departure. Our photography program is in conjunction with National Geographic. So we have our Lindblad certified National Geographic photographers aboard, and they help from anything from an SLR to a cell phone. Look, we know a lot of people now use their cell phone for the majority of the photography. And so we have classes on board to help every level, and then they're in the field with you to assist with your photography. The other cool thing is, and the best seat in the house, is our open bridge. That's available pretty much 24/7 unless we're coming into a major dock, but always take advantage of being able to spend time on the bridge with our captain and our team, learning from them. Now, I think one of the key things with the Lindblad expedition is we know not everybody is at the same level of or capacity to do long hikes or long swims. So each evening we meet, we do a recap, and we talk about what experiences you're going to have for the next day. There may be a long hike, a shorter walk, the opportunity to do a Zodiac safari. So you get the chance to pick what fits your level of ability, your chance to select what you want to do on that next day of exploration. One of the really cool things we did several years ago with our partners or our alliance at National Geographic Society was start our National Geographic Global Explorers program. This is designed for our under 18-year-old guests. It's on every Galapagos departure. It doesn't matter if there's one child or 15 children on board. And this is designed to really bring out their inner explorer. It's an opportunity for them to really learn from our expeditionary teams that are trained specifically by the National Geographic Society's our Global Explorers program. They get to do experiments. They get this really cool field notebook. They get to learn to drive a Zodiac. It really does allow them to learn so much more about the region, but with their family. A true family holiday or family experience is not with kids one place, parents in another. It is about the sharing of that experience. And so we arm them with the questions and the knowledge, and they go out as a family to learn more and more about this remarkable place. And that's an example of their field notebook that they receive. They can track different species. They can keep a diary of their experiences. It is just a really remarkable way to explore.
Having the opportunity to show them how the world works. I get amazed with everything I see. How to go outside of your comfort zone. So I think it's a great problem. The National Geographic Global Explorers program, of course, they are learning so much to share with our younger kids how the world works, to do it all, always with very fun activities. They have to different tools of exploration, the way to learn and discover these pristine areas.
This is a plankton net, and we're about to catch plankton. We've been dragging it through the beach right here, trying to get plankton samples that later we're going to put on a petri dish and look at them under a microscope.
Here on board, we show them through the microscope what the sand, for example, is composed of. Maybe volcanic crystals, or maybe shells, or remains of corals.
Anyone know what plankton is? They're actually free-floating organisms.
It gives them a great opportunity to understand everything about the web of life, the importance of the ocean, the importance of interconnections between organisms, and at the same time they're doing all that while having fun.
Seeing all the birds, the iguanas, it was just an absolutely amazing experience.
Younger explorers learning with their parents seeing the islands through the eyes of their kids, through their experience. I think it's a learning opportunity for everybody. Being able to get a good picture of them and capture the moment.
In the last year, she's gotten very interested in photography. And so to see her have this chance too in the wild to apply that photography, the interest to a new area has been very rewarding.
We're living in a new world, and we want you to be the next ambassadors of the Galapagos Islands.
It is a pretty remarkable experience to watch those kids out there and to see their excitement as they come back to the ship. So how do we explore? Well, at Lindblad Expeditions, we have 2 wonderful ships that are down in the Galapagos year-round. Of course, the Islander, which is the smaller of the 2, is 48 guests. She is perfectly sized for intimate experiences. She's got beautiful outdoor spaces to get away, to relax, to be able to spend time apart from each other, a little bit of social distancing as we're all looking for in this day and age. Wonderful public spaces inside, airy, lots of room to move around. This is our main lounge on the Islander. This is where we come together every night for those recaps to talk about what did we see, what did we learn, what are we going to have the opportunity to experience tomorrow, and then a whole selection of guest rooms from suites on the top deck, solo dedicated cabins, and share opportunities for solo guests that are traveling. And of course, we come in and out of either Quito or Guayaquil. In Guayaquil, you also have the opportunity to stay at this gorgeous hotel if you're traveling on the Islander, which is the Hotel del Parque, which is a 19th century building which has been lovingly restored. But that's a beautiful boutique property that we've really dovetailed with a lovely little boutique ship. And then our second ship, of course, is the National Geographic Endeavour 2. She's 96 guests. She's a perfect base camp for approaching Galapagos. She's been with us for just on 3 years. Brilliant natural light coming into the main lounge area, wonderful dining opportunities. There's an example of one of the 52 cabins and suites, always ocean front viewing, no internal rooms, or with we also have connecting cabins on this particular ship, perfect for families getting together, up to your B suites, and of course our main suite on the top deck that has a separate lounge room and bedroom. So there's a really good selection of different accommodations across both ships to suit you. Also lengths of expeditions from 7 days from the day you leave home to get back, that would be our wild Galapagos, to our longer full Galapagos, which is 10 days with 7 full days on the ship in the islands. And if you can make the time, it really is worth the investment to see every island. You're moving at night when you're asleep and you wake up at a new island. Every island very different from a geological standpoint, from black ribbon lava to red sand to white sand and different endemic species. And we've always understood that wellness is a huge part of being outdoors. And so we have a full wellness program on board. You stretch classes in the morning, there is massage available. And our sustainable cuisine is well renowned, has been for over 50 years. We buy local, we work with local producers and local farmers because the money then goes back into the local community. And our ships are very bright and very reflective, that's the word I'm looking for, reflective of the local flavors of Ecuador. We also work with a lot of local farmers. We have local coffee on board, a local beer. We now have organic meats, organic pork. And so being able to purchase directly from the Galapagos Islands and not bring food in from the mainland cuts down on greenhouse gases, of course, on carbon created flying stuff in, but also cuts down on the chance of bringing something alien into the islands. But it is a really casual, relaxed atmosphere with the opportunity to work out if you want to. I will admit that most times when I'm on the ship, you see people work out the first 2 or 3 days and then they get so into it and so out on the hikes and the walks and paddleboarding and kayaking that the gym gets less and less used. There is also a doctor on all of our on all of our expeditions. We have a doctor in residence who is there to assist you and support you, with Dramamine or any other support that you may need. These are remarkable islands, and it really is one of the most spectacular places, and a place that, as I've said, we've been going to for over 53 years, and a place we'll return to for many, many years to come. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take them now.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for doing this. And I am going to unshare you now. There you are. We'll do the Q&A a little bit later, Lisa, if you don't mind.
No problem.
I really appreciate, I found my sound, and I really appreciate the presentation. I mean, taking home a video at the end of your trip, how cool is that? That's one of the reasons I would certainly choose to go with Lindblad. So now let me just quickly share your screen again, my screen again, sorry, and say thank you very much. Can you see my screen? Excellent. And so I am going to find the chat window again. There's all sorts of moving parts to running this webinar, and if you don't do it every day, it's quite interesting. All right, so thank you again, Lisa. That was fabulous. I loved hearing about it. I loved your photographs, as I'm sure everybody else did. I saw some oohs and ahs in the chat window there. And so, as you have all learned, both Lisa and I are strong proponents of sustainable travel. And to help you plan, or to help you with any questions you might have, I am offering a 30-minute discovery call so that we can create a bucket list vision board just for you, all based on sustainable travel. In order to qualify for the call with me and to receive those gifts I promised you in the Traveler's Toolkit, here is a link to a quick questionnaire, and I will also put it into the chat window now, if I can get my cursor over to this page. And you can, there it is, and you can copy and paste that link into your web browser. It is a limited time offer, so please do this perhaps even still today. I would appreciate that. And I'd love to talk to you about your travel dreams and about how we can perhaps make it happen. So, as you know, I trust that this webinar has given you a great idea of what there is to see in the Galapagos, all about the endemic wildlife there, which is what it's so well known for, and how to travel there sustainably. It is one of those destinations that is on everybody's bucket list.